Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreements across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Some of those taken hostage by Hamas in Gaza said they found the will to go on from something Hirsch Goldberg Polin told them before he was killed. He who has a why can bear with any how. That quote, originally from Nietzsche, later echoed by Viktor Frankl, reminds us that purpose, a clear why, can carry us through the darkest moments, even the unthinkable. Sometimes it feels like we live in a world where solving the problem comes second to solving the optics. We want action, fast, preferably something that looks decisive. But real solutions, those take time, and truthfully, they take courage. Look at government spending. The big, beautiful bill promises to fix the debt crisis, but is it really just political theater? Does throwing money at the surface actually address what's causing the imbalance in the first place? What about gun reform? We run active shooter drills in our schools, station armed guards, and float ideas of arming teachers and red flag laws. We prep our children for the worst. Why aren't we asking why there are so many people in our society that want to hurt kids? We don't talk about mental health or unaddressed trauma or desensitization and radicalization. It's Advil for broken bones. It's Band-Aids for bullet holes.
You know, there's a lot of truth to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle quote about people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Whether in business, politics, or life, why is the root of trust, connection, and real change. We need to identify the difference between quick fix culture and root cause thinking. I feel like we live in a world that is obsessed with Band-Aids and hates biopsies. But skipping that critical thinking means that we end up treating the symptoms and not the source. From climate change to the Me Too movement, we're often quicker to judge the disruption rather than ask what's driving it. But that stuff isn't just happening. If we take a closer look at why these things are happening, we might be better equipped to respond versus react. And it's imperative to come from a place of empathy and not address things from arm's length. It should be an invitation, not an interrogation. An opportunity to actually understand before making a judgment. But let's be honest, sometimes why gets weaponized. And that framing can lead to shame or blame or illegitimizing someone else's experience. So it's not just about asking why, it's about how we ask it. In the real world, the most successful solutions are often the ones that seek to understand a problem before addressing it.
As a parent, I can tell you, asking why isn't always convenient. Sometimes we just want compliance. We want peace. We want control. But if the goal is understanding, if the goal is healing, why has to come first. And that doesn't just apply at home. We see it in medicine too. We prescribe more, faster than ever before. Weight loss drugs, antidepressants. And let's be clear, medication can be life-saving. But if we never ask why someone is struggling in the first place, with food, with anxiety, with their body, with using alcohol to cope, then we risk numbing the pain without healing the wound. Even movements that should be liberating, like body positivity, can get co-opted into mixed messages. Love your body, but shrink it. Accept yourself, but here's this medicine. It's easy to treat discomfort. It's harder, but more transformative to understand what's behind that discomfort. Because when we ask why with compassion, we stop managing people and start connecting with them. So when we try to fix problems without asking why they exist, we're missing the whole point. You're not solving, you're just reacting. Today, we want to slow down, dig deeper, and start with why, because that's where real solutions begin. We want to dig deeper than the Band-Aids on the surface. We're exploring the idea that asking why before jumping to solutions can lead to more compassion, effective outcomes, and everything from personal struggles to public policy. Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Mom.
Hey guys, are y'all ready?
Hello, hello.
We're ready. This one's going to be an interesting one.
Why do you say that?
I knew that was coming. That's what we're talking about, is why.
The intro was pretty heavy there, but I don't think that the conversation necessarily has to be. I think it can certainly carry weight, but I think having that heaviness up early is really good to emphasize the importance of asking why. So let's talk about it. Why is why so important?
One of the questions that we had to kind of walk through and discuss is what's the danger in building solutions around your symptoms? And I think that we can look at that in a couple of different ways. If you go to the doctor and you say, hey, my arm hurts, it just really hurts, and I fell on it yesterday, and the doctor's response is, well, let's make it not hurt anymore. Let's manage the pain. We're going to give you this prescription and we're going to do all of these things, but we're not actually going to reset the bone that has been broken. That gets really, really scary, right? We would sit here and go, that's a horrible doctor. Nobody wants to go to that kind of doctor. Like, reset my arm, man. And I just think that that's kind of a goofy analogy for this, but we have to be treating the cause. We have to be treating the fact that you got dizzy when you stood up because you have vertigo, and that's what caused you to fall down and break your arm in the first place. So instead of just saying, oh, Callie's arm hurts,
Here's some Vicodin.
well, here's some Vicodin. What caused that?
So give us some ideas of what we're looking at, like public policy that looks great on paper but misses the root issue.
Well, I mean, I think that there are dozens. Cole mentioned several just in the intro there. Gun reform. Let's not talk about kids being in danger. Let's just talk about, oh, we're just going to take the guns away. Like, that doesn't solve anything. That doesn't fix anything.
That doesn't stop people from using different methods to get at kids. That's not addressing the root problem. Why do people want to attack children?
Right. Well, we're just going to lock the school doors.
Well, and I'm going to say on this side, this morning, Dad asked me if I had seen about a guy in LA who just ran through a crowd, and apparently he'd gotten mad. And so we've moved from guns to cars now to, take it out on people. We're not going to be able to take all the cars away.
Right.
So we've got to figure out why these people feel like it's okay or it's right to take out violence on people that they don't even know, that they have no idea about.
Yeah, your anger is completely justified for killing people.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I think one of the other ones that I think is really fascinating and has certainly been in the news here of late is the big, beautiful bill. We're going to make all of these changes so that we can save money to add money to the debt.
Yeah.
Like, what? What? I was just reading another synopsis on it this morning. It's like, hey, this doesn't make sense for all of these reasons. We're going to take this money and reallocate it to the billionaires of this country and harm all of the rest of these people in the process. Let's do it. Like, what?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure where the harm other people part comes from. I haven't read the 1,000-page big, beautiful bill, to be perfectly honest with you. I've seen a couple of synopses of it. And to me, it seems like a bunch of tax cuts, which for middle-class America on paper sounds great. You're increasing the child tax credit. You're allowing an opportunity for people to be taxed less on the extra work that they're doing with the, quote, no tax on overtime, which it is capped for one, but still a tax cut regardless for a lot of working class people. I mean, you're talking about the no tax on tip. Again, that has kind of a cap on it, which I understand. But here's the thing. If you're making $25,000 a year in tips, that's going to be pretty helpful to a degree to reduce your taxable income. But if the goal is if the problem we're trying to solve is this massive deficit, then I don't understand where just cutting everybody's taxes is supposed to help that. Because if you're going to do that, then you have to cut spending even more.
Right.
And so I haven't seen in this bill, and again, I'm not read in on it. I haven't read the full 1,000-page document, but I'm not seeing where this big, beautiful bill is cutting that spending.
Yeah.
And so 1 + 7 = 8. It never equals 6.
Well, we Mom and I are still working through our Harvard class right now, and we went through a section the other day that I thought was really interesting, talking about how bills are viewed from members of Congress, whether the costs are diffuse or concentrated. Okay, we're going to diffuse it across all of these different people for the benefit of everybody or for the benefit of this small group, and how various members of Congress may look at that. They talked about the farm bill. We're going to take and have every single American pay just a little bit more cents in their grand scheme of their taxes so that we can pay for taking care of these farmers when destruction happens. So this small group of farmers, which there's nothing bad or wrong about that. That's not my point. But whether or not we are diffusing all of those costs for the benefit of certain people, there are absolutely times where that is necessary. You know, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, we're going to say, hey, we're going to put handicap parking in all of these different places and make that a requirement for the benefit of these people who need that. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Every single one of us pays a little bit more for that to be the case. We are all benefiting in various aspects of that. We are not sitting here having to wait for them to walk through the entire parking lot or wheel through the entire parking lot because they can't get to the door. You know what I mean? And so I think that we have to look at it from that same standpoint. We're diffusing the entire cost of all of these things. Like Cole mentioned, the tax cuts. That sounds great. But who's benefiting from all of those tax cuts? On paper, we are. Until you start breaking it down and say, well, you are, but we're going to take this away too. All those Medicaid things that you use, nope, sorry, you're out of luck. Why? Instead of, I mean, I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around, because Jeff Bezos needs another yacht. So we're going to charge him less taxes, but you can't have health care.
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit more nuanced than that, because most of the ones that I have seen have exemptions to a lot of these cuts for people that make over a certain amount. Now, that provides a lot of loopholes for the uber wealthy to navigate, which they're already doing. So again, it's kind of a paper versus reality situation. But again, even if it was ironclad and was only benefiting the middle class and was only providing cuts for the middle and lower classes, it still doesn't solve the why. It doesn't solve the spending. It doesn't reduce the deficit. You're just reducing your income. Now, if it was, hey, we're going to give these breaks to the middle class, and then we're going to increase and solidify and remove loopholes for the uber wealthy all in one go to offset that reduction in revenue, then maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Again, not read in on it, but I don't think that that's what it's doing. And it doesn't seem to address so it's reducing spending on Medicare and Medicaid. Is it reducing it by the amount that it's cutting in tax revenue? Probably not.
Yeah.
So it's not addressing, it's again, a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. It's saying, you got shot, let mommy kiss it and it'll be better. Like, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work like that, because if we're still spending at the same rate, then we're going to continue. The deficit is already massive. We've talked about this in previous episodes.
Yeah. That's just how math works.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how math works. And so this idea that we're going to reduce revenue and not reduce spending by the same amount doesn't, in order to solve this deficit or debt crisis, you have to start spending less than you're making. And I don't see that happening.
So that kind of leads me to the next question. Why? Why would that be on the table? Why are we not talking about that specifically, those really important questions? Let's just go ahead and pass the bill. Are we afraid of the time that is going to be taken to actually have a discussion about this? Are we afraid of the answers that are coming out of asking why? Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to reduce spending?
In that specific example, I think that it's kind of a combination of all of the above that, okay, you're not going to like the answers and it's going to take forever, especially in the divided political system that we have right now with our two parties that seem to be incapable of working together on most of these big topics.
Right. I mean, but going back to Mom's example a minute ago about somebody driving their car through a group of people, we're just going to throw them in jail and call it a day and
We're
hope
not
that
going to
it
figure out.
doesn't happen again
Yeah.
with somebody else. I mean, we know it's like Mom said just a second ago, we're moving from guns to using our cars as weapons. We can't get rid of all of the cars. So at what point are we going to start addressing the anger that is causing all of this, the frustration that
Ooh, I
is
think that's a
setting
very
people
good
off?
point. You know, we talk so often about it being mental health, but what if it's just anger? What if a lot of this is just anger, frustration? And again, it's hard for me to understand. I'm going to take my frustration out on these, this crowd of innocent people. And you could argue with me that that is mental health issue,
Yeah, I mean, I think
but it could
it's
be.
discomfort to such a degree. It is so much frustration, so much anger that it accelerates and devolves into a mental health issue
Yeah.
because you don't have the ability to cope with that much emotion,
Well, and I go
to
back to
regulate it.
kind of left turn here for a second. I go back to our conversation about the men of tomorrow. We're not teaching them how to deal with rejection. We're not teaching them how to deal with frustration. So then they grow up to be men in power of any sort, whether that's over the McDonald's that they're managing or the White House. And they don't have any concept of how to work through an issue. I don't like it. That's not what we're doing. So just screw it. Everything's done. Like, what? Like, are we afraid of the emotional labor that goes into asking why?
I think we haven't
Yeah.
taught people to deal with the emotional labor that it takes to do that.
Yeah, I think people are afraid of it because
Why?
they because it's been so culturally
Made the
not
norm.
even accepted but required for men to not show emotion, to not have emotion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I don't even remember which one it was. And they were talking about, it was two women talking. So it must have been Call Her Daddy, would be my assumption. But I will not even date a man if he is not in therapy. And I kind of had that same reaction, Mom. I was like, whoa, like that's pretty specific. But
Yeah.
then the more I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh, think about all that you gain as a person, being willing to talk your emotional baggage out, to address it and discuss it and work through it, and what the future of that looks like just because you're willing to go. And so maybe you don't have to be in therapy every week in order for you to be a legitimate candidate. But I think that it does require a willingness to have those conversations.
Yeah. I also think to a degree that that's cope. I think that saying, oh, you have to be in therapy, to me, that's a red flag that I'm not willing to help you with your own emotional distress. So you need a professional to do it.
I agree.
And I don't want to put up with a relationship like that.
Yeah, I get
Again,
that.
though, I think, I'm reading a series about some brothers, and their father taught them to face their emotions, that it was okay to be vulnerable, that it was okay, to say, I'm angry about this, or I'm frustrated about this, and so I think it comes down to, we aren't teaching people how to cope with their own emotions. And so this is, like you say, Cole, this is the frustration that we're getting, is because they don't know how to deal with these emotions.
We're not teaching each other how to help us
No.
with our emotions. We're not teaching our young men to help them if they have a partner who is struggling emotionally. We don't teach people how to help with those scenarios. We teach them that, oh, you need to go see somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Which
Well,
is detrimental to a relationship. I feel like we should be there to be each other's support system, and we're telling, I'm unable to support you, so you need to go seek help for this, when
I'm unwilling to support you.
I'm unwilling to support you.
yeah. And I think that, I was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience with James Tallarico yesterday. We've kind of been passing around between the three of us. And even they said, they're like, we're not addressing anything head on. We're just diffusing it and calling it a day. It's too hard to talk about, so we just might as well not do it. James tells a story about a guy that he met when he's in the Texas State Senate, or in Texas
Congress.
House.
State House. Thank you. He's in the Texas State House, and he met another House member who they're on complete opposing sides, total polar opposites. And they share the same name of James, which is not an uncommon name. And he makes fun of it. He's like, I know it's a goofy thing for us to have bonded over, but we did. And so then the one guy who he becomes friends with brings a bill that he's like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. I'm not agreeing with that. And they sat down and started talking about it just to have the conversation, to the point that the one who was on the opposing side, James, came around to the James who originally initiated it and said, hey, yeah, no, I support you. Let's get this passed. And they got it passed. And then the whole opposite reverse was true. The opposing James brought a bill that the original James was completely opposed to. And then they had a conversation about it, talked about it, and found a way forward and said, hey, yeah, no, I get why you're doing that. That makes a lot of sense. I didn't understand. Just by having a conversation.
So much of it we don't understand.
Yes.
And we're not willing to listen, or we don't know how.
So important.
Yes. We were talking kind of in preparation of this episode and getting all of this planned, talking about, climate change isn't new. Whether you believe it or not, the conversation has been in public discourse for decades. And then you've got this teenage girl in Greta Thunberg who says, hey, we need to look at this differently. We need to address it differently. And she brings this emotional plea of all of the same science that has been presented and all of the same data that has already been presented before she was even born. But she brings it with a different perspective to start explaining the why behind it. And people all of a sudden were like, oh yeah, we got to get behind this teenage girl. Let's do it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that or that she's not at all. I'm just saying she took the why and started explaining it rather than throwing numbers and data back at you for you to figure out yourself. And it was powerful.
And it was basic. She was basic about her explanations versus, and I get it. There's so much controversy over that. We're spending so much time arguing. Well, is climate change real? Well, no, climate change isn't. It's not real. We're not going to do anything about it because it's not real. But that we're spending so much time arguing about it back and forth that we're not addressing anything. We're not addressing the why.
Why do you think
we can't fix that?
Why do you think that it is? What is showing you that this is going to impact me? Why do you think that that is going to be a problem? What would happen if that did become a problem? No questions are being asked, why or otherwise. It's just, I've decided I don't believe you. I've decided I don't believe in that. End of conversation.
Yeah.
And that's detrimental to all of us. Whether climate change is or isn't real, we can't even have the conversation.
Yeah. We had a discussion several episodes ago about the bear versus man. And I think it still comes back to that we have to ask why that many women are afraid of men. Yeah. Why do they feel unsafe? And what's going on there? And I think it does come down to, it's almost like it becomes a viral episode and we don't know, it just grows on itself and becomes a phenomenon. And we're not saying, wait, what happened here? I have such a hard time trying to fathom a majority of women being afraid of men.
I saw the goofiest thread the other day, and it was, this thread is for men only. If you're not a man, do not read this. This isn't for you. And then it skipped a few lines to where it was blank. And then it asked, okay, guys, who's your favorite Disney princess and why? And the answers were so wholesome and wonderful and sweet that somebody actually posted in there, a woman posted in there, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I'm very sorry, but I just wanted to let you know the men in this thread, the men in the comments of this, I would choose over the bear.
But see, that's because you got to know them. You understood a
Yeah.
component of them without just making a decision.
Yeah, and as something over as goofy as Disney princesses, they explained why they felt that Mulan was powerful or why they felt Moana was impressive. And so you got to know them more and see their hearts in that. You asked why. You read their whys. And so it was silly and it was goofy, but you understood them because somebody asked why. And they
Okay,
did it
Boo,
in a safe space.
Boo, do you have a favorite Disney princess?
Not off the top of my head, that's one I would have to contemplate for a while because there are plenty of candidates.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it was so there were Disney princesses that I'm unfamiliar with just because I'm not in that anymore. That I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go watch Moana because she sounds amazing. I'm so excited. But it was really fun.
That's fun.
I think instead of giving people an opportunity, it's just like we were talking about with climate change. Instead of giving people an opportunity to have a discussion about it, we're just writing them off. We're just canceling them. And so when you go back to the man versus bear, if a woman chooses the bear and you don't ask why, you have illegitimized her entire experience because she has this reason. She was abused by her stepdad the entire course of her childhood. And I was listening to an interview with Charlize Theron the other day. I did not know that when she was 15 years old, her dad was a drunk and abusive towards her mom. Her mom grabbed a shotgun and killed him in front of her. And she's not focused on that. She's talked about it before. They weren't focusing on that, but that changes a person. And if I had no idea about, I mean, I've seen her in Mad Max or whatever it is, but I didn't know anything about her. And so then she starts talking about how that has manifested. And so she then is going out and she's an unmarried woman with children in Hollywood, and she has to prove that she's good enough. She said something along the lines of, I'm seen as the woman who just can't keep a man. I don't want a man. I get to go and have conversations with my kids, and we get to make decisions with each other that I don't have to go and consult my husband. That's okay for me. I'm not saying that that's the answer or solution for everybody, but it works great for me. And maybe a guy will come around someday and I want to do that with him together. I don't know. I'm open to that. But right now, I don't want to be. I'm very content by myself because of all of this. And we as society we've decided that whys are unimportant in so many capacities that instead of hearing you out, we're just going to cancel you and move on. I'm just going
The
to
only
tell you
thing
to
that
move on.
matters is the end result.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, it's 3 letters, you guys. It's 3
Yeah,
letters.
but those 3 letters carry with them a lot of weight.
They do. They do.
But it's really important to analyze. I mean, just like in your earlier example, my arm hurts. Well, why does your arm hurt? Don't just give me Vicodin. Let's figure out the cause of the problem. Let's not just treat the symptom. Let's rectify the issue at the source. Because if you don't, well, now I'm going to start to have other problems. Now I'm addicted to opiates. Now I have an infection because my bones are broken and they're cutting the muscle inside my arm. So if you don't actually analyze and fix the source, you just treat the symptoms, you allow that source to start causing more and more problems. Right. Just like with gun reform. So you have these insane people who think that for some reason they're going to get their message across by harming children. And you say, oh, well, let's just take this tool that they're using to do it away. Let's reduce access to this tool. Like, that's going to stop people from wanting to harm children. I mean, and you know what? Yeah, maybe they'll be able to harm less, but we could analyze the why, figure out the source of this problem and cut it out, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that.
I mean, but the other part of that is if you're going to say, hey, we're going to take guns away, or we're going to lock the school doors, or we're going to do any of these individual fixes, band-aids, kids aren't always at school. And what happens when they are at a parade and get run over by a car. There are so many other dangers that are out there for all of us. I talk about, I have on several occasions, like around my life, the more that I have been around race cars and race car drivers, kind of the more I become scared of driving, because it's not that I think that you as a race car driver can't do a good job or don't know. Those race car drivers, I'm even thinking about NASCAR, all they do is turn left. But they are so hyper aware of everything else around them and how the other ones are going to react. That doesn't happen in real life. That isn't reality. And this person happened to be on their cell phone or grabbing something from their glove box and veered out of their lane. And you're not prepared for that. And so I just think that we've got to sit here and be realistic, not only with our goals, but our expectations as to why that matters, why that is important, why that is worthy of putting the emotional legwork into discussing and addressing.
Yeah. At what point? Because we'll go back to your broken arm example. If you go to the hospital with a broken arm and they've got to set the bones, let's say they've got to do surgery of some kind to make sure that you've got a nerve that is wrapped around it, or you've got an artery that has been ruptured from this. So they have to go in and they have to do surgery. That's going to be pretty expensive. Sure. And the recovery time is going to be significant. But, eventually those Vicodin pills are going to outweigh the cost of that surgery. Eventually, that little quick fix, the cost of that little quick fix to continue to treat the symptom instead of just solving the root cause is eventually going to outweigh the cost of that surgery. It's eventually going to last longer than your physical therapy to recover from that.
Yeah.
And so
Emotionally, mentally, physically, economically, all of the above.
Yeah. And so the damage that you're doing by not going in and addressing the root cause is substantial. And we don't seem to be aware of that. We don't seem to, as a society, we don't seem to say, yeah, why are we just putting Band-Aids on this when we need surgery?
So do you think, and I'm posing this to both of you, but do you think that public health or even poverty initiatives would be more effective if we started asking why? Hey, I know you can't afford this surgery right now, but let's go ahead and fix your arm. We'll figure out a payment plan for the rest of it so that you don't get hooked on Vicodin and go crazy.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I'm going to use this old adage of teach a man to fish. So you've got a problem with poverty where people, for some reason, can't keep a job or can't find a job. Well, let's figure out why and fix that so that now, instead of them just having to go to a homeless shelter, instead of them having to rely on the government for aid, they now have the ability to be independent and provide for themselves. You fix the problem. And I'm not saying that that's a solution for everybody. Obviously, there are some people who just need help, and they're going to continue to need help. But the vast majority of people, I would surmise, if you could fix the problem that's causing it for them, then they can take care of themselves. They have an opportunity to be dependent, to maintain some dignity, to earn the respect of the people around them. And then they're no longer a burden on society. They're now contributing to society.
You used the adage of teach a man to fish. I'm going a little bit weirder direction and follow me here. Ryan's grandfather taught him this one that he uses and I find annoying often, but I think it can be certainly applied here. Buy once, cry once. Spend the money the first time to get it all fixed, to get it exactly how you want it, so that you don't ever have to do it again. Spend the money on the surgery. Spend the money on figuring out why it is that this man is homeless so that he can get into an actual home and get back on his feet, so that we're not letting him sit here and suffer for the next however many years.
Generationally.
Generationally.
If I think of poverty and I start trying to think about the reasons for poverty, it is a lack of education. It could be a lack of family, could be a historical that you just have never seen the example of doing something
Opportunity.
better. Opportunity, that's a great word. There's so many things there. And the thing is, it's not a one size fits all,
No.
which makes the why a lot harder. But if we don't ever focus on that why, we don't ever really fix anything. I think we get this too right now with our polarization that I see. And Callie, you talked about the two Jameses. And I think that's so significant. It does not appear to me that we're having conversations back and forth. We're not looking for any type of compromise. This is, I'm a Republican. This is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do because we're Republicans. And it's the same on the other side of the aisle.
Absolutely.
I'm not singling them out because I think if there's anything wrong here, I think it is the fact that those two political parties have split so far and are being so stubborn about what they are going to do and how they're going to do it, that I don't feel represented. I don't think they're listening to me, because when you look and you see 80% of Americans agree on this, but it's not what Congress is doing because it's not the party platform that we've taken in, it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, there's two whys that I want to talk about from your examples there. Going back a little bit to poverty and the different approaches between the Democratic Party, fiscal left, and the conservative right. If you see, okay, we have a poverty issue, we have a homelessness problem, and one side just says, well, they just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, what if they don't know how? What if they don't have access to a system that allows them to do that? But if they had a little bit of assistance and someone who could show them how, well, then they would be fine. And then you have the opposite end of the spectrum that says, well, we're just going to help them a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And they never address the problem. They just say, well, we're just going to take care of you. Well, that doesn't show. And that's why those two systems butt heads so much on this topic, is because neither one of them are addressing the source of the problem. They're just saying, you have to do this to fix it. I'm not going to show you how to fix it. I'm not going to teach you how to fix it. I'm not going to provide any resources for you to fix it. I'm either just going to fix it for you or tell you that you need to fix it yourself.
I was going to say, it's one or the other. You can figure it out yourself, or I'm going to do it for you. There is no middle ground. There is no why. There is no learning. There is no education. You do it or I'll do it.
No teaching a man to fish.
No teaching
No
the man
teaching
to
a
fish.
man to fish. There's giving him fish or telling him that he needs to catch fish.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. And I go back to tangent. Sorry. I go back to that being such a flaw in our current two-party system. Their representation is so massive, and politicians aren't my favorite either, you guys. But at the same time, we need them, but we also need them to represent us. We need them to be willing to go and ask why, to dig deeper, to reject you do it yourself or I'm going to do it for you, to be more creative and come up with better solutions. But in order to come up with a better solution, you have to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
What really
and that
is
was
the
kind
problem?
of the second why that I wanted to address that you had talked about there. We as a society on both sides need to ask, why aren't we being represented?
Yeah.
What is happening here? What is causing this problem? Because everybody has one idea or the other. Oh, well, they're just controlled by lobbyists, or, oh, it's too hard to work with the other party, or whatever the reason is as to why we're not being represented. Oh, they have to fall in with their party politics. But I agree with most of their platform. So I'm just going to let them do
Good
their
enough.
thing and
Close enough.
keep voting for them. We as a society have to ask, why are they not representing us in a way that we feel is adequate? And then address that problem.
Well, and James Tallarico brings up a really good point. As a member of the Texas State House, he makes $4,700 a year in that position. He was a middle school teacher before this. What?
I was just going to say, plus a per diem that brings that up to about 38.
When they're in session, yes.
When they're in session.
But still, let's say he makes $40,000 a year. How many people can afford to quit their job to go do this full time and to provide for their family or themselves off of $40,000 a year?
So why are they doing it? Why are
Why
they
what?
taking that pay cut? Why are they doing a job for so little? There has to be a reason.
Yeah,
And I think for the vast majority of them, it's probably not the money,
it's not the money.
at least not from that particular job. So what's the benefit to them?
Yeah.
Because I think there are some, like James Tallarico, who are doing it because they want to improve their society. They want to improve the community around them.
Yes.
I think others are doing it because it gives them a leg up for something that's paying them other than their job as a representative.
Putting them in some kind of power that is different than that specific financial advantage.
Yes.
But I think that also prevents so many other people from participating.
Yes.
And so the question is, because I was shocked to hear what his salary was. And I did go and double check his numbers and everything because I was like, no, that can't be right. And he was accurate in what he said. And you're just thinking, that's so strange for a state like Texas to have that low of an income for a Texas legislator.
But is it though? If you happen to be he or she who is in power, you can then reach out to your friends and your peers and say, hey, I know you don't need that money either. Come join me on this. Let's do it. Because if we do it together, we can do it how we want. And who's there to stop you? Who's there to object? Because that fireman is still at the firehouse because he needs more than $4,700 to provide for his family at home. So I'm going to round up all of my buddies and we're going to do this because we don't need the money. Because we have the power.
I think another kind of, to me, glaring opportunity here is that it incentivizes strings towards lobbyists. If you say, okay, we as a state are not going to offer an incentive package to our representatives that is lucrative enough for them to do just this job and do it well, well, now they have access to power that they can sell.
And I can benefit from.
And that is a direct correlation to corruption.
Yeah.
And so
then
why don't we
about
incentivize representation to say, okay, we're going to make it so that you don't need this outside influence to be successful outside.
Survive.
Yeah, to survive. We're going to make this job in and of itself lucrative. But in order for it to continue to be so, you have to represent the people you're supposed to be representing. You have to represent your actual constituency.
Yeah. Because Cole said this in the last episode about courageous participation. If we were actually participating and we were actually educated and putting our votes where they actually were going to do the most benefit for us, those same people wouldn't still be in office because we as the people are reaping the rewards because we, the people, are being represented. Our needs are being met. Our whys are being asked and addressed. You know, James Tallarico says that he has a story that he shares in that interview talking about why he has become a politician, which is not his goal. He doesn't want to do this for much longer. He does not want to be in politics forever. This is not his career. He's in seminary. He's doing all of these other things and he's like, I hope my pastor's not listening, but I kind of want to take over after he's done. And he tells this story about this kid who has had all of these problems. He's an 11-year-old kid and he's had all of these problems with all these people in school and threatened his teacher with something. And James comes in and respects him and humanizes him. And he goes and he buys James a gift for Christmas. This kid who doesn't have anything goes and buys him, I think it was a coffee mug from the Dollar Tree. And he was so proud of it. And he became a person. But then the Texas state legislator made some adjustments on how they were doing payments and money that was set aside specifically for like school counselors. And so his school counselor got cut. The person who's talking to him about his whys Why are you so frustrated? Why are you so upset? Why are you so angry? Let's work through all of that. And the kid had problems immediately all over again, and he never saw him again.
And that's
Like,
why he became a legislator. And what he says is that every bill he looks at from a perspective of his kids and
how will
his
this
school.
impact them?
And he's working in West San Antonio, is that where it was? And he said where it's a lower socioeconomic, it's, they don't have everything. The schools are not as well equipped, and he's working there. And so everything that he looks at from the perspective, the why of his kids. How will this help? Why will this help my kids?
How will it impact them? What will this mean to them? How will this impact their futures? And so I think that we can take and apply that why to these interpersonal relationships, whether it's a mom and her two millennials, or your spouse, or your boyfriend, or your children, whatever that is. Why is our immediate response to shut them down rather than say, hey, I understand you're upset about this. Can you explain that to me? Let me hear your perspective. Maybe I can understand you better that
I
way.
was going to say, this isn't easy. To look at poverty and try to figure out the whys of poverty is not easy. And there aren't simple solutions there, that we can't gloss over that and say, oh, it's this one thing will fix that. But if we really never ever address why this continues, I mean, you look at the United States and see a country that leads in so many respects. We have the best military, we have a very high GDP, and yet the level of poverty is increasing. And we need to figure out why that's happening. Is it because of the uber rich? Is it because of the big, beautiful bill? Is it because families have fallen apart?
The imbalance of
They're,
power.
Well,
they're,
and I think that it's kind of all of the above. But again, we're talking about these band-aids, these
yes,
quick fixes that we're using that in the long term are exacerbating the problem. They're
yes.
making it worse. Because going right back to Callie's first example, if I have a broken bone in my arm and all I do is treat the pain, it's going to just continue to get worse and worse and worse. That bone is going to grind around and cut arteries and shred muscle and damage nerves. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And yeah,
Never
maybe
heal.
I can't feel it, but eventually I'm going to lose the use of my arm.
Or your life.
Yep. Well, and we talk about the why being so hard. The emotional legwork can in many cases be more work than the Band-Aid, right? And I think that we also need to talk about kind of the fear that is associated with that. I don't want to know the answer to that why, so I'm just not going to ask it. And I think that I don't remember which episode, we talked about this at one other point, and I don't remember. We have weaponized words and we have weaponized communication in a pretty successful attempt to silence people. I don't want to know your why, because then I have to actually answer to it. Then I have to be
Because then it
accountable to it.
matters.
Because then it matters. It's real. Saying it out loud makes it real, right? And so we're talking about interpersonal relationships, but we often see that why get weaponized and used against people. I'm going to pull women in for just a second. Why didn't she leave that abusive relationship? I think she's dumb or wrong or stupid. This is her fault for wanting to be in that relationship, for not leaving. What
Why did you
about,
load the dishwasher this way?
yeah, you're not wrong. And I think that we have to be really careful to make those, if we're willing to ask the whys, because they're so crucial and so important, that we have to be really careful to not turn them into an interrogation, but to turn them into a platform and an opportunity for understanding.
Because that's what the question why is for. Why did you do this? So that I can understand
Yeah.
your reasoning. And I think that I mean, alluding specifically to what you're talking about right now, I think we have cultivated a culture of social cowardice
Yes.
To not have a need to understand someone else's reason. And so that question of why turns into interrogation into an attack. Why didn't you do it the way I think it should be done?
That's it.
Judgment instead of curiosity.
Yeah, not, hey, I want to understand why you did it this way, because maybe it makes sense to do it this way. Or if it doesn't, then maybe we can talk about, okay, this is the way I do it, and here's why. Does that make sense? Because now, and sometimes it's going to, we both have different whys, and we're going to utilize those whys to find common ground, to find an actual solution. Okay, I'm going to put the forks at the front, and I'm going to put the spoons at the back, because it takes me an extra tenth of a second and it saves a whole minute when I'm unloading it later.
You know, I'm so annoyed with myself for bringing up the dishwasher as often as I do, just because it's still kind of created a chip on my shoulder about it. But one of the comments that when I asked Ryan why he was doing it this way, that I think was really valid, that I just didn't know, I wasn't paying enough attention to know, was, Callie, I'm left-handed. So this is more natural for me. This is just how my hand works. And that was a kind of an aha moment, a light bulb moment for me to go, oh, okay, well, in that case, totally fine. Put all the small plates there instead of here. Then we both win. But we had to have that conversation.
You have to figure out the why.
We had to figure out the why.
I'm going to loop back. I feel like a Debbie Downer. I'm going to loop back to your abusive woman. And I'm just going to say.
Abused woman.
Sorry. Yeah. Or abusive for the other way. But
I guess technically, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. But sorry. But she may not know why. She may not have the time, resources to know why. But if we are willing to stop and help her find that why, we could help all the way around.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. I mean, it's harder that way.
It's more
hard
resource and time intensive, for sure.
It is.
Up front.
Yes.
Buy once, cry once.
But what
Do
if
it
you
one
save
time.
her? What if you save her or you save her children? What if something good really comes of that? What if she develops some strength there that she needs just because you stop to say, why? Why is this happening to you?
Yeah, because you have to analyze the problem to find an actual solution. And that takes guts and that takes time. But again, going right back to the arm, if you just take the Vicodin and you never solve the problem, it's more expensive in the long run.
Yeah, treating you for sepsis and then eventually the same surgery that was going to be too expensive in the first place, plus all of the Vicodin, plus all of the rage that you have taken out on your family and your peers. I mean, it adds up really fast.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this healthcare crisis in the United States and people don't have access to healthcare. Have we stopped to ask, why do we need so much healthcare? Why are we so unhealthy?
Yeah.
Why do these corporations feel like they have to start cutting corners and trying to cheat people out of things that they need to make a profit?
Right.
Well, I think it's probably because we as a society are extremely unhealthy and we're unwilling to address it.
Yeah. Yeah. The willingness of why. So we've sat here and talked about how all of these whys, or why all of these whys are important. Conversations to have, education to share, community, better understanding, all of that. So that kind of leads me into a very head in the clouds weird thought for us today. The more I think about it and the more I sit here and kind of contemplate on these things, the more amazed I am and frustrated that we're not having these conversations, that we're not talking about the why, that we're not willing to dig into these solutions. So my weird thought is this: what would all of these different situations look like if we actually did target the root cause instead of the symptoms? If we treated the broken arm instead of prescribing the Vicodin? What would America look like if we weren't in a governmental debt crisis, a constitutional crisis where everybody's afraid of what's going on or what's happening or their rights being taken away?
Maybe we wouldn't have a crisis at the border because we would be efficiently if we don't have so much debt, if we're not worried about all of these
spending on other people.
problems, if we're not funneling so much economic force into growing the wealth of these massive corporations, if we spread out that GDP a little bit more, maybe now we have an opportunity for people to build new businesses, to come up with new ideas. Now we need immigration, so we have to find a way to fast track these people that are going to benefit the economy, that are going to benefit our citizens, that are going to start benefiting their own lives and becoming productive citizens. Maybe it forces us to streamline so many of these processes to make them more efficient, to continue to feed the growing system that is working to everyone's advantage, not just a small few.
What would be like, how exciting would it be if leading up to the 2028 presidential election, we had candidates up on the debate stage that were pushing each other on ideas rather than who's better at golf,
each other.
than
Instead of
attacking each
slinging
other.
mud at each other, let's say, okay, well, here's what my solution will bring, and here's how we can get there, and we can even incorporate your part, and this is the potential outcome.
I never thought of that.
Your system is never going to work. Your system is bad.
And this is how it benefits the American people.
Yeah.
What happens if kids didn't have to go to school and worry about doing active shooter drills and worry about their school getting shot up because somebody was angry at something else? What if they just got to go be kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you now have less kids who are becoming shooters.
Right.
Maybe you're solving your own problem.
And
mental
maybe
health
I was just going to
issues.
say, you've got parents who aren't having to take anti-anxiety medication just because they're dropping their kids off at school.
So they get to start actually being parents again instead of drug-riddled zombies.
Yeah. I mean,
they're now more efficient at work, so they can spend less time there and spend more time with their kids.
You could go to a concert and enjoy the music and meet the people around you in the seats who also enjoy that music and have a great time instead of being afraid that at any moment a bomb is going to go off.
What if we created something that actually helped people out of poverty or educated people? What if we had the funds to do that? What if we've talked before how the COVID stimulus, the $5,600 of COVID stimulus, made such a significant difference for kids during that time. They ate better. They were brought out of poverty. What if there was a way to help people come out of that?
What if we weren't paying so much money in interest on all of our debts as a country that we got to apply that interest to other people, to families, to Americans?
It's certainly a dream.
And really, truly achievable if we just get out of our own ways, if we start talking. You don't have to talk about everything. You don't have to educate yourself on every single topic, but go pick one and figure that out and start coming up with solutions.
That makes a difference to you.
Yes.
This last one you have here, I think, is really interesting, Callie. Supporting each other instead of constantly competing. Do you know what most of the best competitors in the world will tell you? Practice against the best. So instead of sabotaging the people that are your competitors, make them stronger, because that will make you stronger.
You get better.
It will push you harder by having stronger competitions.
Was thinking about innovation. If we had, no debt, what would innovation look like?
Everything is possible.
Yeah. If we're answering whys, I think that increases innovation. If the funding is there, that increases innovation. If the conversation is there, that increases innovation. What could we come up with? We talked about the pine cone in our last deal. That
wildfire detectors.
Yeah, the wildfire detector. What if that was an everyday kind of thing? That people were calm enough and stable enough that they could, have the time and opportunity to do amazing things.
Instead of attacking the other idea to make yours look better, you just make yours better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or
you spend the time to say, my idea is not as successful. It is not as good as this other one. So I need to improve my idea to make it better instead of trying to make everybody else think this other idea is bad.
Right. I mean, leveraging what has already been done by somebody else. Hey, these people have come together and put together this biodegradable, totally clean wildfire detection system. Hey, can you look at my thing that I'm working on for floods and see how we can apply some of the same logic that has been so successful for you to mine? How many people would benefit from fewer wildfires and fewer floods? Why does yours
Collaboration
work?
instead of
Competition.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think competition is really healthy, and like you
I do.
say,
I do.
competition drives innovation. But if you're not improving yourself by making someone else worse,
Right.
that's not actually innovating. That's the opposite of innovating.
Right.
So again,
Stifling
going back to
innovation.
those top competitors, how do they make themselves better? They collaborate with other competitors. They say, hey, this one technique that you're using has these disadvantages. Here's the technique that I use. Here's how you can incorporate it into your own style. And now that pushes you even higher. So I have to push myself even harder to be better.
Yeah. You know, Cole, you said something here earlier in this episode talking about if we weren't spending so much time getting healthy, but we were actually addressing why we're unhealthy in the first place. What if going to the grocery store was easier? You didn't have to sit there and worry about what was in all of these products. You didn't have to worry about the effects of feeding this to your kids.
And the effects of diet on mental health are vastly underestimated,
Yeah.
misunderstood.
And totally related. I mean, you guys, what if we were spending time celebrating birthdays instead of dreading and drowning in cancer diagnoses? What if we were reducing our reliance on antidepressants and keeping people from being depressed? And so our suicide rate goes down.
Because we stopped eating less processed foods.
Because we stopped eating less processed foods. Something just so simple. Like we've made it easy to live better lives rather than for big, huge corporations to profit at our detriment. They profit at our detriment. What if
Those profits were generated for the good of society?
Then instead of being turned into multiple private airplanes and yachts and mega mansions, they get reinvested in the company to keep innovating and keep making everything better.
Yeah.
What if
House
instead of
homeless
paying us,
people and giving them jobs so that they can add to that productivity?
some wishful thinking there.
Doesn't have to be, though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those are within
Tangible.
reach. We just, as a society, have to say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't eat only Doritos.
And Mountain
I
Dew.
have to give up my Doritos?
I'm not even saying you have to give them up, but maybe you have one bag a month instead of 6 bags a week.
Well, maybe they don't have high fructose and they don't have
Red dye number 27.
yeah, carcinogens in them.
Because people stop eating them because it's a product that they understand is bad for them. And what does that do? That forces Doritos to go and rethink their strategy to say, hey, we're no longer competing in this market because people understand that what we're giving them is poison. So maybe we should offer a product that's not poison.
Da, 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 da. There's always that option.
Okay, I'm ready for a good news story. Who's got my good news story?
I got you. So we're talking about why, and I think that this is such a cool one. This one's coming out of Portland, Maine, and these parents have started a movement. One of the moms told her daughter when she made a request for a smartphone at 9 years old, she told her no. She was worried about the anxiety that it was going to induce and the loss of her attention span or the ruining of any attention span in these really formative years based on social media or due to social media. And so she had a conversation with her daughter. And what her daughter said was that she wanted to communicate with her friends. She asked why. And so instead of just saying no after that why, she brought up a creative solution. This is going to sound so weird in 2025. Her creative solution was to install a landline in their house. And she put it in the middle of their house, in their dining room, and it has the curly cord on it that those of us who were born pre-1999 all remember. And she talked to all of her daughter's friends' parents and said, hey, I think you should do the same thing, and then they can talk to each other. So all of these parents got together, and there's like 15 or 20 families that all put in landlines in their houses so that their kids could talk. So they created a safe, monitorable, tech-free, relatively tech-free circle of communication amongst these kids. And the parents noticed all of these dramatic changes in their kids. Their kids, because they're not on smartphones, they're having to sit there with a physical phone tied to their dining table to talk to each other, became more attentive, more empathetic, and more articulate.
Wow.
One mom was talking about how her daughter's conversation skills progressed mind-blowingly between January and June, because without the distractions of all of these screens, they actually listened to each other and engaged with each other.
I love it. We all just got rid of our landlines. And now then here's a solution to say, hey, you want your preteen to develop communication skills. Here's how to do it. Form a group of parents with landlines.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what an innovative way to think about it. I love it.
Yeah. So in a fast-moving digital age, these families are proving that sometimes going old school can help their kids gain modern-day social skills. And that's good
love
news.
it. I love it. Thanks for that one.
I just thought it was so cool.
Yeah, it is. All right, you guys. Interesting conversation today.
Be willing to ask why.
And mean it. Do it from a place of compassion, from empathy.
Listen
Be
to
genuine.
the answer.
Say, hey, you and I don't see eye to eye on this, and we have to figure out why so that we can try to come together and find a solution.
Where do we agree? Where is that common ground that we can start building off of?
Why isn't what we're doing working?
Yeah.
Do the legwork.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Love you too.